Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and this morning we are continuing our first look series at the new Pan-Asian cruiser line by taking a look at the penultimate ship in the line. This is Tier 9's Sejong. Sejong, I'm getting it wrong, guys. It's accept it, move on. So, Sejong here at Tier 9 comes flying the flag of the ROKN, the Republic of Korea Navy. This is the South Korean Navy, for those of you that might not necessarily be familiar with the flag. So, what, as near as I can figure, what this ship, you're probably looking at the ship going, Raptor, that looks like an Atlanta. Yeah, it really does. As near as I can figure, what this ship is a wargaming vision of what a follow-on to the Atlanta class might have looked like. In the sense of, it's very obviously a light cruiser, very obviously using the American twin-barreled 5-inch guns for main turrets. It's got that same kind of thin beam, high superstructure to get the triple super firing turrets here in the front and aft. Like it's very obviously a design based on the Atlanta class, but I'm not aware that the U.S. Navy, the Warships guys ever even contemplated a follow-on, another design. There are some pretty noteworthy changes in here. We're going to talk about that as we go. The most important one being her main battery. So stay tuned for that because there's a lot to unpack when we talk about this ship's main battery. But for starters, like we always do, let's talk about survivability. So 29,800 hit points is really nothing to get excited about at Tier 9, as you can imagine, right? Like there is actually one ship in the queue currently worse than this, and that is the premium Tier 9 Pan-Asian cruiser. Currently has even less health than this. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But you're not even crossing the 30,000 HP barrier, which honestly, 40,000 is generally the floor for a Tier 9 heavy Tier 9 cruiser. Not just a Tier 9 heavy cruiser. Tier 9 cruiser. Period. 40,000 damage, 40,000 hit points is usually the floor. The only regular ship you see in World of Warships in this tier, in tier and class cruiser with less than 40,000 hit points, and that is Ibuki, and even she has 39,000. Okay, so she's like just kissing that mark. She's a little low, but yeah, that's where you're at, and we're 10,000 hit points below that. So just like Harbin down at Tier 8, this ship is going to get huge negative marks for that health pool. Absolutely insane how weak these ships are in terms of the health pool. Now, of course, being Tier 9, and we'll get to this when Consumables, you do get a heal now, but still just yikes. Again, we've been saying this all along, 4% torpedo protection, not what you do well. Don't get hit by torpedoes. Maneuverability and concealment, 33 knots, 670 on the turning circle, 7.7 on the rudder shift. This ship is going to handle like in Atlanta. The turning circle and the rudder shift are within a few percentage points of what Atlanta already has. Atlanta's like a 610 turning and a 7.2 on the rudder shift, and about this on speed. So, and I mean, you can just look at the lines of the ship and the hull form. Like, this ship's going to handle like in Atlanta, in my opinion. Maybe a little worse. I mean, these are worse numbers, but they're not so radically worse that you're going to notice a difference, in my opinion. So, yeah, it looks like in Atlanta. It quacks like in Atlanta. It's going to handle like in Atlanta. Concealment on the surface, totally naked. You see there 12.3. You rig this ship for full stealth, you get her down to 9.7 on the surface. Now that's pretty good. That's well above average, obviously, for Tier 9. It's one of the things these ships, all over the line, have been doing well. It's not best in tier. At the moment, best in tier probably would still be Drake and Tulsa. You're looking at 9.5, 9.6, respectively. At the moment, and we'll talk about this when I do the Dalian video for that ship, but Dalian's detection is way better than this. Like, Dalian gets down under 9 kilometers at Tier 9 for a Tier 9 cruiser, which is kind of lunacy, if I'm honest. But there you go. So she's incredibly stealthy. Like, for a Tier 9 ship, a lot of stealth going on here. But again, the ship lives in a world of 12-kilometer radar. You know, it's not like Stalingrad and Moskva and Petropavlovsk are ships that are rare at Tier 10, are they? No, they aren't. So, or Riga at Tier 9. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. All right, main battery. This is going to be a long conversation, guys. Settle in. We got a lot to unpack here. Sejong's main battery is based around American twin-barreled 5-inch turrets. Now, you're used to seeing these kinds of turrets throughout the game. All over the place. Atlanta's main battery, Gearing's main battery, most American battleship secondaries, Tier 9, Tier 8 and above. Most American heavy cruiser secondaries, Tier 8 and above. All comprised of the American 5-inch twin-barreled 38 caliber gun. But Sejong's main battery is not the American 5-inch 38 caliber gun. It's the American 5-inch 54 caliber gun. At the moment, I'm aware, the only place I'm aware these appear in the game elsewhere is these are the secondary turrets on Tier 10 American battleship USS Montana. There might be someplace else they appear in this configuration, in the twin-barreled. The single-barreled versions make up the secondary and long-range AA battery on the high-tier American carriers like Midway and Franklin D. Roosevelt, okay? But as far as main battery, this is the first time we've ever seen these guns used as a player-controlled weapon in World of Warships. Now, why is that significant, Raptor? Because, like, oh, it's just in Atlanta, isn't it? Well, yes and no. The performance of these guns is different than Atlanta for two reasons. All right, this is where we're going to have to really dig into the weeds here, guys. So if this is not your bag, I apologize, but we're going to talk about this for a minute. It's really important you understand what you're getting into here. The main battery on Sejong being made up of different caliber guns means you get more shell velocity. You can see it there on the right, 808 meters per second, okay? Atlanta's main barrel's velocity on the shorter caliber guns is only 792 meters per second. So on the face of it, you wouldn't expect these guns to perform that differently, but they do. And the reason is the shells. You see there, for example, the high explosive shell, 127 millimeter HE Mark 41. The shells on Atlanta are Mark 32s. So they are different shells. So we're firing different caliber of gun with different shell. You're going to get very different gun performance out of these. I'm going to put a couple of tables up here so you can see what I'm talking about. The first one is just the flight time and penetration curves. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Atlanta's main battery penetration because these are 5-inch shells. You aren't going to penetrate many things that aren't destroyers or the occasional light cruiser at incredibly close ranges. So don't really focus on that. But the green and the red curves you see in the top half of the graph, those are shell flight times. The green curve at the top is Atlanta flight times. The red curve at the bottom is Sejong flight times. Look at the difference there. Inside of about 6 to 7 kilometers, not really going to notice much difference. And let's be honest, if you're fighting if you're in Atlanta or you're Sejong and you're fighting at that kind of range, you're in trouble already. But look how the difference changes the farther out the range you go. And these ships have about the same main battery range. You're looking at a little over 13 kilometers, okay? So I've run this number basically out to 13. Here, I'm going to show you a couple of numbers here to actually show you the shell velocity, the shell flight times at 13 kilometers, which is near max range for these ships. Atlanta, you see here, 15 seconds and change. You're used to that, right? You fire an Atlanta gun, the shells hang up, they float back to Earth. It takes forever. Sejong shells, around 11. Around 11. You're looking at nearly a 30% improvement on flight time at max range. Now, this is probably going to be a double-edged sword, okay? I'm trying to process this. I don't know that means you're going to be able to use these guns. You know, we're used to seeing Atlanta's park behind islands and arc shells over. Will Sejong be able to do that? I don't know. I want to think she can, but I don't know that. The reason for this, and I'll put a couple more pieces of information up here just to continue further confusing you, okay? When you look at the stats of the two shells side by side, and I'll put them right here in the middle of the screen so you can see it, you see the weight difference. The shell weight of the shells that Atlanta fires, the Mark 32 shells, is about 24 something kilograms or whatever it is. Look at the Sejong shells. They're like again 30 or 40% heavier. Not quite 50% heavier, but certainly 25 or 30% heavier per shell. So they come back to Earth faster. So you're getting Atlanta-style performance, Atlanta play style, but these, I don't think we can call these Atlanta guns. They are going to perform very differently, or at least they feel like they will. They'll certainly be easier to lead. Like, at worst, you're going to be sitting behind an island firing shells over it, and with that 4-second less flight time, you'll have an easier time predicting where the opposing ship is going to be. So you've got that working for you. But that's presuming the shells arc over an island, and I don't know. Like, I can't play the ship and then talk about it, right? So all we can do right now is look on paper, and on paper, the main battery of these two ships is radical enough. You need to plan on potentially some differences there, okay? We'll go back and just finish up looking at the shells. We talked about we talked all about gun performance, shell velocity, shell arcs, all that kind of thing. 5.3 reload time on the main battery means that you're looking at an HE, like an HE DPM performance I'm kind of trying to quantify her here. She is best in tier this way, right? You're talking about it's a little less than 260,000 DPM with those HE shells on that 5.3 second reload. So that feels pretty good. But I mean, this ship is fragile. She comes with a lot of drawbacks. And again, not the least of which is, of course, you're still going to have to suffer with only 21 millimeters of base penetration out of the shell. You're almost forced into IFHE on this ship. And for some of the ships that she's going to run into, the battleships and stuff, even that's not going to be enough. That's only going to give her 27 millimeters or so of pen, 26, 27 mils of pen on these shells. She's not going to pen much more than superstructures on most battleships. Not even French battleships, which ordinarily hate HE spammers, are really going to be afraid of a ship like this. She's going to light fires. She's going to light lots of fires with that 9% fire chance. But by the time, if you put IFHE on this ship, you're going to cut that down to like 4.5%. That's going to feel bad, right? So there's going to be some very difficult choices to make when you spec a captain and a Sejong. Do I take IFHE? Do I not? Do I rely on the fires? Do I not? There's going to be a lot of theory crafting in the community, I think, as we get deeper into this. But again, understand you're looking at not only a 54 caliber gun versus Atlanta's 38 caliber guns, but even the shell is different. These guns are going to perform very, very differently to Atlanta's, at least on paper, it looks like to me. Torpedoes. Yes, right. The Pan-Asian cruisers continue to have these nasty torpedo armaments, and Sejong here ups the ante, coming to the game with 4 quadruple-barreled torpedoes. That's right. She has 8 launchers on each side, 8 tubes per side, 12-kilometer torpedoes, 17,900 alpha. That's nasty. 67 knots, 0.8-kilometer detection. That means that just like we've been seeing up the line, you're leaving your opponents with a little less than 5 seconds of reaction time as to when they will naturally spot these torpedoes and as to when they will impact you. And again, they can nominally hit everything in the game, but submarines and destroyers. Really bad reload there. You see they're almost 2.5 minutes, 145-second reload. So again, we talked about it a little in some of the other ships. There might be a case for some of those cruiser skills to reload the torpedoes, to reload torpedoes faster, right? That 10% torpedo reload skill looks pretty good on this ship, right? That saves you almost 15 seconds of reload time. That could be noteworthy, right? That could turn out to be a lot of damage, a lot of potential damage you're able to put back in the water over the course of a match. So interesting there. But I do like the torpedo armor on these ships. I feel like it feels to me like learning to kind of maximize your torpedo armament, certainly on these high-tier cruisers, is going to be really key to getting good performance out of these ships at Tier 9 and Tier 10, and even Tier 8, really, but definitely at the 9 and 10. Depth charges. Yep, still got some depth charges back here on the stern, just like we've been seeing. Here they are, little clusters, right? 2 charges, 6 bombs each, 1,700. Not a whole lot of damage here. Again, they've got to do something here. We're not, if you're going to put a cruiser in a position where she can depth charge a submarine, you ought to get a little more reward than that. Feels kind of bad. AA defense, something else that this ship does well. For starters, max range, 6 kilometers on the AA. Pretty nice, okay? Secondly, look at that flak. Look at that. 10 flak puffs out of this ship. Yikes. Yikes, that is going to be rude. Rude awakening for almost any carrier that wanders near this thing. The average for a cruiser at Tier 9 is like 5 or 6, right? So we are way above average here on flak, and you can even turn this number up further with captain skills and other things. Continuous damage-wise, you're getting a non-zero, pretty good solid number there out of the long range, 175 DPM out of the long range aura. Not best in tier, but still really good. Most of your long range punch is going to come in those additional flak puffs. That is just nasty. Mid-range aura 270 is maybe a little on the low side. There's a lot of really good Tier 9 ships that have really, really amazing anti-aircraft suites. So this is perhaps a little on the low side. The American twin-barreled 76mm mount here is a really good anti-aircraft gun when you find them up at these tiers. The trick is she only mounts 4 on down each side of the ship, so you could wish for more out of the mid-range AA. Basically, it's not awful by any stretch, but it's not as good as you might hope or might think for a ship based on an Atlanta. And then she does have a little inner bubble there, based on the 20mm Orlicons. Of course, it's not too bad, but that's not really what you're after. You're really looking at those long-range oars, and man, that flak is nasty. So yeah, AA defense there, definitely something to write, something to noteworthy benefit of the ship, certainly with the flak. Quick look at consumables. We've been seeing, obviously, your ship in World of Warship, you get damage control party. We've been seeing the smoke generator. That's been a thing for a while. The 70-second dispersion time on 100-second reload, so you get 3 of those. Defensive fire has been a fixture of the line for a while. At Tier 8, of course, we added the Torpedo Reload Booster consumable. This is pretty cool, especially on this ship and her cousin up at Tier 10, because they now have a whole lot of torpedo launchers, like a whole lot of them. You can put a lot of pain in the water very quickly with this consumable. And then, of course, because we're at Tier 9, we start getting healed. Nothing fancy here. Standard cruiser heal at Tier 9. So, yeah, you're going to be able to heal some damage, but as long as you can keep them out of the Citadel, that would be good. It occurs to me I completely skipped over looking at the armor layout. Apologies. By the way, there's nothing to get excited about here. Armor layout, that's right. 16mm area plating. We've upgraded from Atlanta's 89mm belt here to Sejong's 95mm belt. Whoo! Be still my beating heart. That extra 1/4 inch is just going to make all the difference in the world, I'm sure. Even her Citadel is shaped just like in Atlanta, with these low protruding magazines here for the thousands and thousands of shells she will fire over the course of a battle. And her Citadel does stick up above the waterline amidships here. You can see it. So, yeah, she's armored like in Atlanta. She's going to take damage like in Atlanta. The struggle this ship is going to have, of course, is that while she is based on Atlanta, she doesn't have much more health than an Atlanta, and she's going to see way bigger and way nastier opponents all the time than in Atlanta because she is a Tier 9 cruiser. Whew, that was a busy one. There's a lot going on in this ship. I'm really curious to try it. I can't wait to put this line through its paces, guys. So someday when they let us play these ships, trust me, I'm going to spend some time checking this ship out. I'm really curious to see how she plays. In the meantime, guys, that's it for this video. Appreciate you watching. Wash your hands. Be safe. I will catch you next time.